Hey guys, welcome back to the hand sculpture. As you can tell, I've been working a little bit on it. I'm not trying to really finish it. I just want like a rough sort of indication of a hand. And this doesn't take a lot of time. You can do this in a day or two. And if I rotate it, one of the neglected parts that people tend to do is right here near the thumb and on this dorsal side of the hand. But as you can tell, I've left out a lot of things. It doesn't really matter to me because I'm not really trying to create a very polished sculpture. And I think a lot of times I try and create a little bit more polish, but I use my hand as reference, and if I need to create some more geometry, what I tend to do is look at my hand like this. I will add the chunk of clay, and then I'll take this round tool that I really like and I'll just curve it, and I'll create the modeling with just this tool. It's a really good flexible tool because it's wood and it's rounded. One of the issues is that sometimes like clay does get in there and it doesn't create a nice texture, and because it's curved, you can say sculpt a finger just by moving the tool like this. So if I wanted to curve this part, all I do is like take the tool, push it down, and just simply like twist it. And you don't have to do a lot more than this for a rough sort of sculpture. I think one of the problems is that a lot of people try and fully finish something, making it smooth, and sometimes sculptures look good, kind of like unfinished. So if I take a little bit of clay and let's say I want to add it in this muscle right here, and you should try and like create these muscles very distinctively, you can do this and then take the tool and try to push it into the other hand. So after a certain point, another great tool to have is this. All of these tools that I'm using right now are from Sculpture House. Sculpture House creates really good stuff. I'm not getting paid from Sculpture House. It's not a paid advertising, but if they want to advertise. So once I have my general shapes, I can take the serrated tool and essentially cross-hatch the geometry and blend it. I'm pretty much done with this sketch. I don't think I'm going to do anything else to it, but if you ever do one of these sculptures, you can see it's actually kind of like life-size. So what you have to do on a water-based clay is to you have to get it off the base first. You can let it dry, but one of the things that happened already is that the base already started cracking because I left it alone for quite some time. So we have to remove it from this tile. And usually I don't use tiles, but it's the cheapest, and I have plenty of tile because we don't need it anymore. You can see the sculpture actually kind of holds its shape, but you still have to be very careful. Take care of the base a little bit, and I think we want to hollow it out. We don't want to leave it solid. And I think at this point it's a little bit too hard to really do. But there is some things I can remove. And if I take my paint scraper, I'm just going to remove this part. And then I'm going to detach it. See, I didn't put it on too tight. So with this, we have to fix up this part of the hand. And since I'm not really spending a lot more time on this, I'm just going to take my serrated tool and I'm just going to do this. Remember, this is a quick sketch. One thing to be careful is that your base, my base is actually kind of thin. So what that means is that if it gets too thin, it dries at a different rate than this, because this is a lot of clay. Now, using a tool, I can hollow this out, and one way I'm going to do it is just doing this. I'm going to dig on the part that doesn't have as much geometry or work that I put in, and I'm just going to dig in. And I'm going to use a tool like this, a scraping tool, and I'm basically going to dig into until I hit the base here, the wooden base. Because artists generally, the sculptors like Michelangelo, Bernini, in the Renaissance, they would do these clay maquettes first before they would start doing their marbles. That way they would have a reference up. They would do studies in clay because it's the cheapest form of clay you can get. You don't have to make a mold, but of course you can make a mold with it as well, so it's very flexible. But I've seen quite a few Bernini's of when he did studies for his large works, and they look amazing. They're like very finished sketches. Some are very loose. So as you can see, I'm digging towards here. So I can take this. So I'm holding the, and you can see that hole right there. That goes out right there. Here we go. So I am digging and I'm going up the wrist here, trying to make a hollow. The hand, the actual hand, has quite a bit of clay here. So one way of getting the weight off the hand is by going to the backside and digging a few holes here. And you need to make sure you hold the hand, the wrist, because it is very fragile. And especially when it comes to here, to the wrist and the hand carries a lot of weight, so you have to be very gentle with it. And feel where the palm is, that way you don't go too much in. So I'm going to try and dig down. I'm actually hitting this stick here, and I'm going to leave it there for now, and I'm just going to dig more to the side. And I'm going to dig a hole from here, right over here, and I'm going to do this sort of motion and pull out the clay as I dig. There we go. I'm going to get a smaller tool. This part is actually harder because the clay has gotten a little bit more firm. And we have gotten quite a bit of clay out. And I'm going to dig up. So the key here is to get the clay up to, we don't want to leave like a large hole here and not scoop out a section here, because we need the clay to vent out. So we want to like dig from here down. And at this point it's actually kind of difficult. I wonder if I should have done it a different way. Did bring this top part over to the wrist. The only thing I'm going to do now is take a very rough serrated sort of tool. I'm going to close these back up. Get plenty of water like this and just kind of rough it up like this. Boom. The rougher the better. And then take some of your wet clay, and I'm just going to use whatever I can find right here. And we're going to plug these back up. And the key is to get it really wet so it adheres. Often I do have issues with it, but we're not creating something very polished, even if there's like a little bit of a rough kind of crack on it. Here I've only put a little bit, but I want to be able to get a little bit more thickness onto the parts where I dug in. Action that's going to let me join the clay a little bit easier. And I'm not even trying to create the sculpture back up, but and just kind of move it around a bit. Able to see anything. That's really the best thing, and that's what I usually do when I am just sculpting a figure in this sort of style where I have to dig things out. Alright, so we have a lot of this clay out. Probably the last thing you should do is just clean up the base, and what I like to do is just get everything nice and wet. And when it's drying, I'm just going to put like a bag over it just so it dries consistently. Maybe I'll do a hand sketch like this, and I'll move over to like doing a very finished hand. I try to tend to do very finished stuff a lot, but the thing in common that this has with a finished hand is that it uses the same geometry. It's exactly the same. It's the same process, and it's a matter of like sitting down, having the time to fully realize your sculpture. So that's the video for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. I'm going to be starting a portrait sculpture, and I will be showing you how I'm going to be doing it. It's going to be a terracotta sculpture that I will be firing as well. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.